We are Baltimore. We are Ohio.
If you could draw up a perfect summer night, tonight would be the night in downtown Cincinnati. It is a glorious evening, and we welcome you to Great American Ballpark. The opening game of this 4-game series, the first and only trip to the Queen City for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And hi again, everybody. Alongside Chris Welsh and Jim Day, I'm Tom Brenneman. Welcome to Reds Baseball. And in case you haven't heard the news, it's big news. Earlier today, after the team had already shown up for the ballpark, the Reds announced they have traded away Marlon Byrd to the San Francisco Giants for a minor league right-hander, Steven Johnson.
In fact, it happened so suddenly that Marlon Byrd was actually in his Reds uniform when he was given the news that he was heading out to the West Coast to go with the Giants. You see what he's done for the Reds this year in 96 games. He delivered the power that the Reds had hoped to get when they traded for Marlon Byrd from the Philadelphia Phillies. And he really fills a hole for the Giants because the Giants are short on outfielders. They need some power. And because Byrd plays pretty good defense, he will be very welcomed in the Bay Area.
All right, let's shift gears and turn the page now to tonight's game. We get our first look on the home front. You get your second overall look at Reds rookie left-hander John Lamb. What do you think his first time out?
You know, he's a left-hander with a really nice delivery. He's got 4 pitches that he can throw for strikes, 3 of them that he uses the most. A nice fastball that goes into low to mid-90s. He's got some movement on that. He's got a nice overhand curveball that he throws, a little bit of a slider and a changeup. I think he had so much going on his first game out against the Dodgers. I mean, and he threw the ball pretty well until the 5th inning when he gave up that 3-run home run to Adrian Gonzalez. He'll not be the last guy that will do that, I can guarantee. But Lamb has got promise. There's no question about it. He is the first of the 3 pitchers that the Reds got from Kansas City in exchange for Johnny Cueto. Maybe more to come, but tonight we get another shot at John Lamb.
And the Reds get their second look already at Patrick Corbin, a highly touted young left-hander who's come all the way back from Tommy John.
Well, the further he gets away from that Tommy John surgery, the better his arm feels. He had a better fastball his last start than he has in any of his other starts. You see what he's done over his last 2. Pitch into the 7th inning, 3 earned runs, 13 strikeouts. This left-hander is the real deal. When healthy, he is a very tough challenge for any ball club that he faces.
All right, so that's a matchup tonight. Talented young left-handers. And when we come back, what a nice sight it was. Sam LeCure back in a Reds uniform, not only on the mound, but retired every batter he faced in 2 innings. You're watching Reds Baseball on Fox Sports Ohio.
This is what we've been waiting for. You got to call this weather scrump-delicious. I'm telling you what, if you can, it's beautiful out there. 74 degrees first pitch, down to 66 by the time you go home. Skies turning clear. I hope the boys play well tonight. Oh, because you know I'm playing well. Enjoy the game, everybody, on Fox Sports Ohio. Woohoo!
And Tim, for a guy that has to wear a suit at the ballpark, it is a welcomed weather night. And it was welcoming to see Sam LeCure back on the mound tonight. Worked his way back to the big club after struggling at AAA and not making the team out of spring training. But last night, 6 up, 6 down. It was vintage LeCure last night. And after the game, he was a fan favorite. And he got a lot of response on social media, and he tweeted right back to him. Just wanted to say thank you for all the warm welcome back to Cincinnati. It was touching, and that felt so good. I never stopped believing. We talked to Sam also earlier today.
It wasn't so much emotion. You know, you always kind of tell yourself, like, you know, hey, I'm a major leaguer. Like, I know I am. I know my stuff plays there. The game's the same. You always hear that. The game's the same. The game's the same. So you believe it, but you still kind of have to prove it to yourself, you know what I mean? And it was just really nice to go out there and have that type of outing and, you know, just kind of reinforce the fact that it is the same game. My stuff does play here. You know, I can get people out here just like I had in the past.
Proof you don't have to throw 95 or even 90 to get big league hitters out. Reds need to stop the slide at 5. It's a first of 4. D-backs and Reds on deck on the home of the Reds, Fox Sports Ohio.
For 50s tonight, it is just perfect. No humidity. Couldn't ask for any better. Let's take a look at Chip Hale's starting lineup for the Arizona Diamondbacks. They come in here playing pretty good baseball right now over about the last month. Enciarte, Pollock, and Goldschmidt to starting. Goldschmidt, their main man. Castillo, Hill, and Tomas in the middle. Our first look at Tomas as a starter. And a latter third of Chris Owings, the shortstop Nick Ahmed, and the left-hander Patrick Corbin. Starting it for the Reds, his second major league appearance, a loser in his hometown against the Dodgers last week, and it's strike one to Ender Enciarte, and we are underway at Great American Ballpark. Now, for those, Chris, that did not see Lamb, you touched on it briefly a moment ago. For such a young man, he appears to have a varied arsenal.
He does. He's got 4 pitches. I expected only 3 pitches. He had a slider that we were not aware of, at least that I was not aware of until we saw him actually pitch in the game in Dodger Stadium. First thing you look at is what about his delivery? Is it repeatable? Then the second thing you look at is how do hitters react when the pitch is underway? Do they look like they see it? And I thought he pitched and availed himself pretty well. I mean, you have to be excited that you already have one of the guys, one of the 3 that you received for Cueto on the mound pitching a big league game for you.
Two to enter Enciarte, and it's just off the inside corner. He's showing bunt with 2 strikes in the at bat. I'm not sure if somebody's reminding him that there are 2 strikes in this at bat. Payoff pitch to Enciarte, and a bouncing ball right at the shortstop. Suarez, 1 away to start the ninth. Take a look at the Reds starting lineup on the defensive side, brought to you by Ford. Bird was in the original lineup, and then he was told he was traded to the Giants. So Schumacher gets a start in left field. Billy Hamilton, of course, on the DL. So Bourgeois in center. De Jesus for the ailing Brandon Phillips. And there's a bleeder down the right field line, a base hit by Pollock. And he's a 1-out base runner here in the opening inning. A.J. Pollock having a real nice season. Batting in that 2-hole, closing in on 30 doubles. 12 home runs, 50 runs batted in. And his next stolen base will be his 30th stolen base of the year. He's only been thrown out 6 times. Well, here's the Diamondbacks' main man, although he's going through lately what we've seen Todd Frazier go through, and that is a post-All-Star game slump. Goldschmidt only 1 home run since the All-Star break. He has 22 overall in the year, a whopping 89 runs batted in. He was flirting around for quite a while there at making a potential run for the National League's Triple Crown Award.
Well, 2-0. Even with the slump that Paul Goldschmidt finds himself in right now, he's still under consideration as one of the front runners for the National League MVP. But he is 2 for 16 recently. There are his first and second half numbers. The batting average in the second half not all that bad, but the power is way down. In fact, the other part of it is that since the beginning of last season against the Reds pitching has held Paul Goldschmidt to a 184 batting average. So whatever the scouting report and the execution the Reds have on Goldschmidt, they are doing the right thing.
You'd probably have to say at this point in the year the leader for the National League's MVP award would be Bryce Harper of the Washington Nationals. Although most of the time a player who wins that award is off a divisional championship team. That one's in foul territory, handled by Votto for the second out of the inning. The Diamondbacks are not going to be a divisional champion unless the wheels completely come off both the Dodgers and the Giants. And the Washington Nationals' chances, while they certainly have more than just a legitimate shot, they're only 3.5 games out. They've had to win their last 2 games to climb to 1 game above the 500 mark. We talked about Wellington Castillo when the Reds were in Phoenix a couple of weeks ago. When the Diamondbacks picked him up in a trade, I mean, he has all of a sudden just exploded offensively. Picked him up from Seattle on June the 3rd after starting the year, of course, with Chicago. Traded then to Seattle, then came over to Arizona. 22 RBIs in his last 28 games. In fact, his 13 home runs are tied for the 5th most among all National League players since June the 3rd, the day he was acquired by Arizona from Seattle in their strike.
Nice little move right there by Lamb. You know, he's got a normal leg kick delivery out of the stretch. That time it was somewhat of a slide step, maybe a modified slide step, but certainly quick enough that you may discourage a base runner who's thinking about stealing a base.
Fastball swung on and fouled out of play. It's 0-2 on Wellington Castillo. Castillo, a regular over the last couple of years behind the plate for the Chicago Cubs. That was before last offseason when the Cubs brought in the longtime Diamondback catcher, ironically Miguel Montero. And when they acquired John Lester, they went ahead and brought in David Ross. And at one point during this season, early in the year, they were carrying 3 catchers on the Major League club. Pretty good looking breaking ball, just a shade low.
Yeah, and a slow breaking ball at 69 miles an hour. Boy, that gives you a major spread of speeds between your fastest pitch, low to mid 90s, and right around 70 miles an hour.
And that is strike 3 called on Castillo. A nice start in his first start on the home front for young John Lamb. Ohio brought to you by Cincinnati USA Regional Tourism Network. Stay close to CincinnatiUSA.com. By Chevy, check out their award-winning lineup only at your tri-state Chevy dealer. And by Skyline Chili. Going there for lunch tomorrow. Feeling good. It's Skyline time. That's a big day out in Milford. The Friday Skyline lunch visit. Got to join that club there.
Good to know that,
Mr. Welsh. Red starting lineup presented by Meyer, Bourgeois, Suarez, Votto. In the middle, it's Frazier, Bruce, and De Jesus. A latter third of Schumacher, Barnhart, and Lamb. Patrick Corbin, 2 years ago, among the very best young pitchers in all of baseball. Hit with Tommy John surgery. And has come all the way back. And tonight makes his 9th start since being brought back to the big league roster. And banged into center field, a base hit by Bourgeois. Well, as bad a night as it was on the bases for Bourgeois, the point is he was getting on base. He had 5 plate appearances in the game here last night. He was on base 3 times. Scored a run, but of course he had not only a pickoff at first base, but that pop up with the bases loaded infield fly rule. Chris talked about it during Reds Live before the game, and it was ugly. But you move on here tonight, and a good start for Jason. Here's Eugenio Suarez. Strike one. Suarez, another very impressive game here last night. He too was on base 3 times. 2 of 4 with a walk, an RBI double, a single. Oh, and 2. Pulled foul. Nice play by the bat boy down there. This is a guy who came ready. Kept his balance. Nicely done. It's big league play.
Working on a big league beard.
What a beautiful piece of hitting that is by Suarez on an 0-2 pitch. Dribbles one the other way into right field. But Goldschmidt holding the runner on, and the Reds have something cooking here in the opening inning.
Well, you had to figure that after that 0-2 slider in, that Corbin would go back away, and it just goes to show you how Eugenio Suarez is maturing as a hitter, thinking right along with the pitcher right there, shortening up a little bit, taking what they're giving him, and you go away with a low outside sinking fastball. You take it that way, and you get a little dribbler for a base hit.
So here's Joey Votto, the hottest hitter in the National League going back to the beginning of July. He takes off the outside corner. Ball 1. Votto homered in the opening inning here last night. Brandon Phillips did the same thing right behind him. A game, of course, where the Reds would fall to Kansas City 4-3. It was a long night. In fact, each of the first 2 games of this homestand have gone deep into the night. 13 innings on Tuesday. Longer than an hour and a half rain delay, and then a very long game once we got started.
This is a very interesting matchup here between Votto and Patrick Corbin. Corbin is one of only 2 pitchers in baseball that Votto has been to the plate at least 10 times against and has not recorded a hit against. He is 0 for 8 against Corbin, and he is 0 for 11 against the Cardinals' Kevin Segrist. Of course, Segrist is a left-hander specialist out of the bullpen. And I would imagine Votto is the kind of guy that would know that stat.
2-1 to Joey. Good speed on the bases in Bourgeois and Suarez. Breaking ball and a dandy from Corbin for strike 2.
Looks like he dropped his arm angle just slightly on that, and Votto does not read it as a breaking ball.
Corbin over his last 5 starts is averaging better than 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. 2-2 pitch. Fastball off the inside corner. So a full count here to Votto.
All right, so every pitch in the at bat that has been a strike has been a curveball. All the fastballs have been out of the zone. So if you're Joey Votto, you're thinking Corbin's probably coming back with that curve, right?
Corbin a long look into Wellington Castillo. Now okays the sign. 2 on, none out. 3-2 on Joey Votto. And that's in the air down the left field line towards the corner. And a nice running catch out there up against the wall by Inciarte.
There are a lot of left fielders that do not get that ball.
Look at Arizona defensively. Position player wise, this is the youngest team in the league. The only veteran, well, really two of them. Castillo's been around for a while, and of course Aaron Hill's been around for a long time, but everybody else extremely young, including Corbin. Not only their position players young, we mentioned the youngest team in the National League. The same holds true for their pitching staff. The second youngest staff in baseball. And believe it or not, the Reds are not number one. The youngest pitching staff in the league is the Atlanta Braves. 1-0 the count on Todd Frazier. Pulled into left field, a base hit. They're going to hold the runner Bourgeois at third, and Ciarte getting to the ball quickly. Four batters, and the ball gets away. And Bourgeois was standing on a third base bag. The cutoff man, Aaron Hill, did not cut the ball off, and then it went right by Castillo and Corbin backing him up.
I think Ciarte actually kind of pockets that ball at first, meaning he took a couple of crow hops and then decided to throw it on him. Bourgeois, he's hanging close to the bag tonight.
All right, the bases are loaded as Castillo visits Corbin on the mound for Jay Bruce. Jay had a couple of chances last night. He left a runner at third for the final out in the third inning. He had the bases loaded, one out. When he popped up, it turned into the double play on the base running mistake by Bourgeois. Bruce 0 for 4 in the game last night. Clearly, if you're going to get to Corbin, the opening inning appears to be a good time to do it. Reds trying to take advantage of 3 singles. Bruce just 2 hits and 11 career at bats against this Arizona left-hander. Fly ball short left. Here comes a throw. Here comes a runner, and it's 1-0 Reds. Throw goes into third, out at third base. The run counts, but it's a double play which ends the inning. Jay Bell just saying, yeah, out. Talking to Rob Coughlin, the video replay specialist inside the Reds clubhouse. Reds jump in front, 1-0. which ended the bottom of the first inning.
Well, the sacrifice fly by Jay Bruce, the throw goes into the catcher, and it's really wide. So he's got a clear view of third base, and here comes Suarez in, and he really never gets to the bag. Maybe he gets his hand on the bag right there, but he overslid the bag anyway, and the third out made a third. And that's a point of conversation, not necessarily debate, but you know, do you run the bases that aggressively when you are in the middle of a rally? I mean, is getting to third base that much more important than just hanging out there at second base? Of course, what Suarez had anticipated was an actual play at the plate. And had there been a play at the plate, then the catcher would not have had a chance to throw down to third and nab him. I think most managers would rather see a player err on the side of being aggressive than rather being too soft out there.
So Aaron Hill, a ground out to short to begin the inning, and now John Lamb goes to work on the rookie Yasmani Tomas. 296 batter, 7 home runs, and 42 runs batted in. You may notice that Lamb is sporting a shiner. Some of you know why. For those of you that don't, how about it, Jim Day?
Well, on Tuesday, as we showed you, John Lamb in batting practice was bunting, and this was a lesson learned. Ouch, right off the bat, right into the left eye socket, and no structural damage with the eye or anything around it. Is not hampering him at all, and as predicted, it is a full-on shiner now. And Brian Price talked about it, so that's what you get when you know, sometimes you trade for a kid that's been with an American League team. As we've told you, he has not hit competitively since high school, so he's got some learning to do as far as swinging that bat and bunting.
He's a very fortunate young man. That's all it was, a black eye. That's just painful to watch.
Kind of makes him look extra tough out there, though, doesn't it? Like a brawler.
Slow breaking ball spun up there at 73, and Suarez will throw out Tomas. Now the second baseman, Chris Owings. Down year offensively for Owings at 228, 3 home runs, 32 batted in. You know, and some of the fans out in Arizona, he's only 23 years old. Some of the fans in the media, you know, wondering, you know, why do you stick with Owings? Why not give Aaron Hill a shot, a veteran player who's a proven offensive really force when he's had a chance to play most of his career. He is getting older now. But Chip Hale and Tony La Russa, who of course is now the president of baseball operations for these Arizona Diamondbacks, they lay it right there on the line and say, we believe this guy is our future. He is a winning player. We like him a lot. Nothing at 2 on Owings. Lamb throws his hands into the air and misses. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Well, Owings is only 23 years old, and he's a former #1 draft pick. So, you know, because of those 2 reasons, I mean, you're going to let him struggle a little bit, because eventually they figure you come to the major leagues, there's a learning curve anyhow. You know, it's interesting when you mention how young this team is overall, and even as young as the pitching staff is. Those that surround this ball club a lot and cover them think that they may be in the free agent market for a veteran pitcher, a Zach Greinke type pitcher, maybe even David Price, Johnny Cueto, you know, in the wintertime.
That is a fair ball. Jam shot flare down the left field line. And that'll be a 2-out double on a 2-2 pitch from Chris Owings.
Not every good pitch results in a good result. gets right in there, and that's about as good a location as you can get, except Owens is able to get it right on the chalk line. Oh, it used to be chalk. Now it's paint. It used to kick up a little bit when it would hit that white, and you could easily tell whether it was a fair or foul ball.
And that used to help the umpires.
Yeah. Now they got guys in New York to help the umpires.
Off speed once more. First pitch strike to Ahmed, the shortstop. 220 average, 7 homers, 26 knocked in. Another youngster, 25 years old. I mean, Ahmed is a throwback to shortstops of a long time ago, where he comes up with a reputation as maybe not much with a bat, but really good on defense. He won the minor league Rawlings Gold Glove Award as the best defensive shortstop in all of minor league baseball. Well, you know, it's going to be interesting to see if baseball changes. Chris, you and I have talked about this off the air quite a bit. What with runs and scoring and offense down, 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 down every year, can you afford to continue to keep guys just because they're a good defender, instead of a guy who maybe is a mediocre defender but can really hit? I want to hear your thoughts on that when we come back. Hall of Famer Tony Perez, please arrive early and witness the unveiling of the legendary first baseman's bronze statue. We'll have a special on-field pregame ceremony. And don't forget, the first 30,000 fans in attendance will receive a replica Tony Perez statue presented by La Rosa. So we have the big post-game ceremony tomorrow. Many members of the Big Red Machine will be here. And then the pregame ceremony with the giveaway on Saturday. So we invite you to come on down to the ballpark and remember one of the great players and a great gentleman to ever play Major League Baseball, Tony Perez. His number retired, of course, number 24. Reds 1, Arizona 0. Ivan De Jesus, Skip Schumacher, Tucker Barnhart. The trio against Patrick Corbin here in the second. And their strike 1-1 to Ivan De Jesus. He has a hit in 17 of the last 22 that he started. Done a pretty nice job in those starts. A .283 batter. Now his overall season numbers aren't there because he's come off the bench or pinch hit. and not necessarily done a whole lot in that role. He did draw a walk in his only plate appearance last night. Strike 3 called on the inside corner. First strikeout of the game for Corbin.
He's got nice action on that fastball. Our Fox track shows that ball to be an inch or two inside, and Jesus will go down probably a little bit unsettled about that one. First strikeout of the night for Corbin. His last time out was his best of the year. As we said, coming back from Tommy John surgery, he's fashioned a 3-3 record, earned run average pretty good at 3.4. But he pitched 6 2/3 against the Braves last time out. And 15 of the outs that he recorded were either ground balls or strikeouts.
It was exactly 2 years ago today, and that was the last full season where Corbin was healthy, and he had 2 unbelievable starts against the Reds. But 2 years ago today, a complete game 6 hitter. Corbin allowed only 2 runs against the Reds and punched out 10 that night. That was a 5-2 Arizona win when Paul Goldschmidt clubbed a grand slam in the 8th inning to win it for Arizona. So tonight, just Patrick's second start here at Great American Ballpark, and that one dropped into right center field, a base hit by Schumacher. Here he comes for second, digging hard, and the throw is not in time. A hustling double for Skip Schumacher. A lot of guys don't even think double here.
Well, you know, if you don't think double right out of the batter's box, you're not going to get double, because it's amazing how close these plays end up being. That ball in the gap, the Diamondbacks do a nice job. That's Yasmani Tomas out there. Not a Gold Glover, but he's got a strong enough arm to get it on one hop in there to Ahmed, and a 1-out double for Schumacher. He stands to get a little more playing time, I think, also, Skip. In fact, he probably thought he was going to get more playing time than he has this year. He's really been limited to almost only pinch hit appearances, and he's one of the best pinch hitters in the National League.
And of course, you were talking about Brennan Bosch before the game yesterday and watching his batting practice very closely. And right now, with Billy Hamilton on the disabled list, you know, Bosch is also an option out there and left after the trade of Marlon Bay. We certainly wish Marlon good luck. He's going to a legitimate contending club. Giants 2 behind the Dodgers in the National League West. They're 3 behind the Cubbies for the second wild card spot. In fact, the Cubs and the Giants get together next week. Well, speaking of the Cubs, how about this Joe Madden story with the Cubs?
Pretty amazing, isn't it?
For those of you that haven't heard, the Cubs are getting ready to start a critically important stretch of games. They open a 4-game series tonight at Wrigley Field. Here's a base hit into center field, and Schumacher going to be waved around by Jim Riggleman. Here comes a throw from center. It's cut off. They may have had a shot. It's 2-0 Reds in front of the base hit by Barnard. And I think that Castillo is coming out to Goldschmidt to say, we got to get on the same page.
Well, they practice this over and over. This is something that all it takes is a little communication. The catcher, if he wants it to go through, usually doesn't say anything. If he wants it cut, that's when he yells. But you can tell by the reaction of Paul Goldschmidt when he turns after he cuts the ball and looks in, he realized maybe if he had let it go that would have been a very close play at the plate. And he's still thinking about it.
Meanwhile, Mike Harkey, the pitching coach under Chip Bale, out for a visit to Corbin and Castillo. Anyway, to finish the thought, Cubs are starting a 4-game series tonight against the Atlanta Braves, and Joe Maddon has told his team this is an American Legion baseball weekend. And for those of you wondering, like we were, what does that mean? We're turning back the clock to when you played American Legion baseball. Everybody shows up 1 hour before the game, put on your uniform, we go out and play catch, and we go play the game. Now, we've documented from time to time Maddon on multiple occasions this year just feels as though guys are just wearing themselves out, spending the entire day, all day, every day at the ballpark. Guys for a 7 o'clock game coming down to the ballpark at 11 o'clock in the morning. Chris, we see it with the Reds all the time. And at times this year, Maddon has said the clubhouse will be locked, so don't even bother to come down here. You will not be able to get in, and we're not going to let you in.
I think it's a good move because what's happened nowadays is that guys can start getting there early. A few core players who maybe have nothing else to do. So they get there early. The coaches certainly get there really early. And then the other guys who aren't there early feel like, oh, I better get there early too, or else they're going to think that I don't care. And pretty soon everybody's taking a bus or a taxi cab to the ballpark at noon for a 7 o'clock game. And in the words of Joe Maddon, he feels that all that means is that you're going to sit around on the couch in the clubhouse longer and you're going to eat more snacks. So why be there that early? Especially during a time of year when you're kind of in the dog days anyway. You're a little bit tired. Give it a break. You've looked at enough video and you've studied enough stat sheets. Just go out and play baseball like you used to. And I think it's a refreshing change and a great attitude. And I think it'll be welcome. I mean, I don't know if you're going to. I don't know if you can judge what they're going to do against the Atlanta Braves as whether that works or not. But Maddon is sure not afraid to try it.
Well, you can see, and you don't know if it's because of what happened the other day, fouling a ball off his eye when working on his bunting, or just the simple fact that, as Jim Day brought up earlier, Lamb has not hit in a real game going all the way back to his days in high school. But he clearly did not look like there was any comfort factor trying to turn around and put down a bunt. Well, we'll get to work on that.
Corbin's not the easiest guy to bunt off of if you're a left-handed hitter either.
Runner at first, a run home. Reds single runs in each of the first 2 innings. And here's Bourgeois for the second time. He singled and scored in the first. He puts a charge into this one, a deep left center field, and this will sail over the head and up against the wall. And Ciarte watching it go, throw into the plate, not in time, and Bourgeois run scoring triple.
Now, this is the kind of spring that Jason Bourgeois had, that right before he was injured, and he had a broken shoulder blade that put him on the disabled list at the end of spring training. And he had a long road back from that, but this is the way he was hitting the ball down in Goodyear, Arizona, that opened a lot of eyes in the Reds camp. I mean, he is just hitting it hard everywhere.
One in the first, 2 in the second. And here's Eugenio Suarez, and he takes a strike. Suarez singled into right field his first time up. drive center field. Another hit and another run. Suarez a perfect 2 for 2 tonight. He drives in his 32nd run. And the Reds coming up with big 2-out hits from Bourgeois. Now Suarez.
Well, Patrick Corbin has not retired yet, either of the first 2 hitters in the Reds lineup. Bourgeois a single, a triple, and Suarez a couple of base hits with an RBI to pick up.
Now Joey Votto with a chance. Big shift put on him by Arizona defensively. One 1-0 on Votto, who flied out to left field his first time up. 2-0 to Votto.
You know, as cold as Votto has been against Patrick Corbin, he has been that hot against the Diamondbacks overall in his career. A .348 batting average against the D-backs coming into tonight's ball game. On base percentage, just about 100 points higher than that. They always think that, and really especially for the Diamondbacks because of their premier first baseman Paul Goldschmidt, that Votto has a tendency to ratchet up his game when he's in a situation like he is with the Diamondbacks, where you've got another guy playing first base who's considered a premier player at that position. He also does the same thing, I think, when he faces the really good pitchers, like he did the other day against Zach Greinke.
We saw him do the same thing earlier this year against Max Scherzer.
I mean, what I really think separates him, other than the fact he's just a good hitter and he's got a good idea of the strike zone, is that his ability to focus. When he really gets locked in, he focuses as well as anybody I have ever seen in a baseball uniform.
Well, Joe Luck, our statistician, tells us that Votto in his career against Cy Young Award winners is a .360 batter. How about that number? Swinging a foul ball back out of play. That's not too shabby.
If there were a league full of Vottos, they wouldn't be Cy Young Award winners.
There was another former first baseman that was in that category. Of course, he didn't have the power that Votto has, but the assistant hitting coach for the Diamondbacks, Mark Grace, every year near the end of the year, the old Sporting News, I know many of you remember that, they would do the research before, really a lot of the research became available right at your keyboard. As that one shot down the left field line, fair ball into the corner. Suarez on his way to third. They're waving him around. Here comes the throw from the shortstop to the plate. Slide out is a call to the plate. Todd Frazier's looking in the dugout saying, I'm not sure about that. Suarez may have got the hand in before the tag was made. Yeah, let's take a look.
Bryce is going to ask for an internal video, meaning he's looking for Rob Coughlin to take a look first.
Oh, did he ever tag him? We're waiting for Brian Price, who's looking in the dugout. See if this gives us a better idea.
Yep,
it'd be hard to see if there's
he's asked for a review, so the Diamondbacks will come back out on the field until the decision from New York is rendered.
Of course, the other part of this is, did Suarez's hand ever touch the plate? So it's not only did the catcher tag Suarez, but did that hand, which he was trying to sneak in there ever make contact with the dish? It's hard to tell. If Suarez's hand never touched the plate, then there's the tag for the out. The first attempt by Castillo appears to have come up empty. But again, it all gets back to whether or not Suarez touched home plate. So this play under review. Reds challenging the call on the field, which is out of the plate. These replays seem to be taking longer and longer as this season has gone on. Not every one of them, but the majority. The initial swipe by Suarez did not appear to make contact with the plate, but then when Castillo's body came into the screen, did that last reach touch the plate?
Well, I think the body language of Suarez shows you that he doesn't think that he touched the plate, because as the catcher was sprawled out all over the plate, Suarez, after he gets back up to his feet, is still looking for a spot to touch, and he realizes, maybe I'll just leave that as it is. Watch him as he gets up here. He thinks he touches the plate or not. And then he gets up. Now he's looking for a spot. Maybe I'm going to try to touch it again. No. There.
And the clock continues to tick. You know, logic would tell you that if it takes this long to decide, then there's not clear evidence to overturn the call. I mean, that's just pure logic. If you have to look at it that many times and the call stands out at the plate. So the call stands, but a good second inning and a good start for the Reds here tonight.
Shelltown, and Mo Egger from 700 WLW at the Holy Grail. It's your chance to answer Reds trivia, win prizes, and be part of Reds Live. The fun gets started Friday night at 6 at the Holy Grail.
So John Lamb now handed a 4-0 lead. He has thrown the ball very well through the front two. He's allowed 2 hits, both of them really just little flares. A jam shot off the bat of Pollock to the opposite field in the first inning, and the same on a pitch that ran in on the hands to the right-handed batting Owings that he hit down to third baseline just fair. 2-1 to the pitcher Corbin. Boy, this is a rare night indeed of late for Patrick Corbin. Chris gave you some of the numbers and the way he's thrown the ball, especially his last 3 starts. And already the Reds have a whopping 8 base hits against Corbin and a 4-0 lead. Short hop fielded cleanly, nicely played by Frazier. Throws out Corbin. Well, a reminder, we'll have our Miller Time moment coming up later tonight. It's brought to you by Miller Lite. Still some sunshine. Looking out into the hills of the Commonwealth. What a day. Talked to a number of the traveling party members from Arizona, and of course it has been so long since they have experienced this kind of a day, even on the road. Summer months, it's hot everywhere. We know how hot it is in Phoenix. Of course, this is a typical Phoenix winter day.
Did you tell them it was like this all year round here?
Oh yeah, so it's always sunshine and blue skies in Cincinnati.
See, you have a future as a college football recruiter.
Well, I know one thing, and I think you know this, and I say this with the utmost sincerity. That one just over the head of Frazier into left field, dropped in there by Inciarte. If there was a job as a lead recruiter for Cincinnati, Ohio, and for the entire Buckeye State, there would be others that would be as good as me. No one would be better. And I'm not patting myself on the back.
I believe you sincerely believe that.
Yes, I do believe that. Because no one in the world loves living where they live more than I do. I know a lot of you feel the same way. That's taken high. Ball 1.
Of course, I think that job's already taken by Jim Day.
You know, it really is. I mean, he is Mr. CincinnatiUSA.com.
My word does not travel with as much effectiveness as Tommy B.
That's not true. I mean, those commercials you do are phenomenal. I mean, they have you everywhere. The last one of those I saw is when you were doing on the big chili run all over town.
I ate chili from 7:30 in the morning all day to shoot that commercial. And it was good. Don't get me wrong. Every place we went was really good.
I mean, you were over at Price Hill Chili, right?
Yep.
And then you were up at, what's the place I passed it 1,000 times on
Dixie
Kenwood
Chili.
Road? What's the place up on Kenwood Road?
Blue Ash.
Blue Ash Chili. Yeah.
Yeah, and Dixie Chili. Good stuff, but I'll wake you up early, though, 7:30. How about a 3-way at 7:30? How we looking?
Hey, brother. They had the taps open back in the old days. The Hudapole King of TV bowling at about 6:30 a. Those were real men. The Sabbath day, no less. We taped that baby back in the old Channel 5 days. The Hudapole King of TV bowling every Sunday morning about 7 a. Lanes all over the tri-state area. You'd have about 4 or 5 dozen there. Waiting. Bar open. Was that even legal?
I don't know. Well, you probably never asked that
Jim
question.
Strickler, he was there on that show with me. Roy Alfers, our director, was on that show with us. Half the guys working in the ballpark were on that show. I think that was about a third of the bar crowd. Two and two on A.J. Pollock. Runner at first, one out. Lamb, a long look. Good pitch there. 93 inside corner. And that's all for Pollock.
You know, you go back to what I said earlier about one of the ways you scout a pitcher is simply not looking at the radar gun, but it's looking at how hitters react. And how we react to that, as we will name that our flamethrower of the night, brought to you by Cholula Hot Sauce.
All right, so here's Goldschmidt. He fouled out to his counterpart his first time up. Slow breaking ball, missed up and away. Fastball high and away. 2-0 on Goldschmidt. Pitch. Lamb to Goldschmidt. A called strike. Three and one.
Just nice, easy gas, if you want to call 91 and 93 gas. It's plenty enough to pitch in the major league, but it just looks like he just got good timing to his delivery, and it looks rather effortless.
3 balls, 2 strikes on Goldschmidt. Broken bat, roller, foul, and Goldschmidt appeared to have chased ball 4.
He's going to have to get a new bat. You know, notice that on his left wrist, he's got a little bit of a wrist wrap. And there are a lot of people around the Diamondbacks who are perhaps wondering where the power has gone for Paul Goldschmidt, especially since the All-Star break. I mean, the power numbers were there before the break. I think he's only hit 1 home run since. And a lot of times, you know, just a slight little twinge of a pain in the hitter's hands or wrist area can cause him to change a lot at the plate.
Struck him out on a high fastball at 93 miles per hour, and the inning is over. 4 strikeouts in a game for Lamb. He's only allowed 3 hits and has a 4-0 lead. Chris Swain from Somerville, Ohio will win that Tundra. And you can still register for your chance to win. Just stop by and see your Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky Toyota dealer. Well, the Diamondbacks are going to their bullpen. John Lamb, 3 innings of 3 hits shutout baseball, and Patrick Corbin, who's been on a fabulous run coming into his start tonight, is gone after 2 innings. 8 hits, 4 runs, all earned. Josh Colmenter, a one-time starter as recently as this year, has been a much better pitcher this season pitching as he does now from the pen. Look at those numbers as a reliever. Very, very good. You don't see guys that come more over the top than Colmenter in his delivery. An important series starts tonight in Pittsburgh, a 4-gamer. The San Francisco Giants started that road trip dropping 2 out of 3 to the Cardinals, but tonight they're at PNC Park in Pittsburgh. Pirates in a 3rd inning, a 2-0 lead there. There are a whole fleet of teams involved in the playoff race over in the American League. Now, really, the National League, you have 2 teams duking it out for the East. Realistically, you have 2 duking it out for the Central. For the divisional championship, the Cubs are 9 games back. The Cardinals are not going to blow a 9-game lead with a month plus to go in the season, month and a half. And it's a 2-horse race in the NL West. And really, it's a 3-horse race in the wild card, and 2 of the 3 are going to make it. Pirates and the Cubs right now would be the 2 wild card teams in the National League. Giants are 3 behind Chicago. 2-2 on Frazier. But over in the American League, a very different story, where you have 6 teams within 4 games of the wild card lead, and divisional races in 2 of the 3 divisions. Frazier gone swinging to start the Reds' 3rd inning. And as we were talking about, I mean, you really got to look at that scoreboard and try to mix and match, figuring out, okay, well, what would happen if this, and if they win, then they move up, and then they would lose ground, especially when they're playing one another. And that will be the story down the stretch in division games. You'll have Toronto, Baltimore, Tampa Bay playing a lot. Texas and the Angels, 3 series left to go this year. Rangers are the one team that has really come out of nowhere to get right in the playoff picture. Soft liner, broken back, and that's fielded by the shortstop. 2 away in the inning. Tony La Russa is here in Cincinnati tonight. He has spent, you may remember when we were in Arizona, La Russa was just getting ready to leave to go watch a lot of players in Japan. He was over there for nearly 2 weeks. And there were some that were just stunned in the Diamondbacks traveling party when La Russa showed up in Pittsburgh after the game last night and made the trip from Pittsburgh into Cincinnati.
So he came in with the team last night.
I don't know what kind of connecting you got to do to get from Tokyo to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's some serious flying there.
Well, La Russa is not the general manager. The general manager is Dave Stewart, but La Russa wears that hat that is becoming more and more popular among baseball executives of a somewhere between the ownership and the general manager. But he, I imagine, if he goes about it like he has done every other baseball job he's ever had, 100% all in. And he'll be one of those presidents of baseball operations, I think that's his title or close to it, who will be in there on a daily basis.
Strike 3 called. Cole Mentor a perfect third. Reds lead 4-0.
Reds, Fox Sports, Ohio. I'm Jim Day. You've noticed Brandon Phillips not in the starting lineup tonight. Left the game last night early. It's a bicep injury, diving for a ball. And we actually thought he hurt it last night, but he hurt it 2 nights ago doing the same thing, diving for a ball. So he basically re-aggravated that injury last night. Brian Price said they were going to give him treatment today, and hopefully he would be available at some sort to perhaps pinch hit. They keep this lead. They will not need him. Brian Pena also banged up. He took that foul tip right off the shoulder, and he said it hit him right on the right on the bone on the shoulder. So he is available but banged up, and I talked to him about how tough it is being a catcher, and you guys have talked about this.
Yeah.
He said this one was painful, but nothing is more painful than when someone fouls off a ball when Aroldis Chapman is pitching. He said he took one on the inner thigh one day, and it's the most pain he has ever felt in his life. You've got to be a tough guy to be
There's
back
no
there.
doubt. We talked about it a long time the other night after he took that foul tip you're referring to off the shoulder. Now, Jim, back to Brandon Phillips for a minute. Have you had a chance to catch up with the old fella?
Always.
Talk about this injury?
A little bit. He's it's one of those that's just, I don't think it's going to be serious. It's going to keep him out for a while. But it is his throwing arm. If it was the other one, it would be maybe a different story.
Okay.
But I think he's all good.
Okay.
He's wearing, of course, his own T-shirt underneath. By the way, that T-shirt underneath there, that's his own T-shirt. It's like him on the front.
Really?
Which is classic him.
The only other person in the world I know that has one of those is Jesse Jackson, our stage manager.
Stand by. Stand by.
I don't mean the Reverend Jesse Jackson. I mean our Jesse Jackson. He has his own T-shirt. There's guys from Arizona wearing that T-shirt here tonight.
We see some in the stands from time to time. If we see one, we'll see if we can show you that T-shirt.
Jim Day, do you have a Brandon Phillips T-shirt?
I do not. I do not have one.
I cannot believe you don't have one.
He'd make me pay for it.
No, he would not. You
would.
and I both know that's not true. Now, it looks like it's almost like, are those his shades, or are those is that like a reflector shades on his T-shirt?
No, those are reflector shades on the T-shirt.
Jim, you have to get one of those.
I'll work on it.
You wouldn't have to work very hard. He'll give one to you for sure.
I will definitely work on it. I only wish I wore the same shoe size, because you should see the shoes he gets from his apparel company.
Well, he's holding court down there. I think that's Kivas Sampson he's sitting next to.
It is.
Yeah. Kivas hadn't said a word in about 25 minutes. 3-2 to count on Aaron Hill. Strike 3 called again. Boy, is this young man impressive again here tonight.
He struck out 7 batters his last time in his first major league start against the Dodgers. And he just goes right down there. That's that tight little slider we were talking about. And really, that might be his 4th best pitch. He's got a good curveball. He hasn't really broken that out a whole lot tonight. But that's a nice pitch right there, dotting the bottom of the zone.
Boy, what a pitch that was. If that's his 4th best pitch, look out.
Yeah.
That one slowly spun up there at 75. Well, the 7 strikeouts had some historical significance. You go back over 100+ seasons, it's the 5th most ever by a Red in his major league debut. Of course, we remember Johnny Cueto's 10 strikeout game in 08. That came against these Arizona Diamondbacks. Fastball runs in on Tomas. He fouls it away. 1-2 with 2 outs. Reds in front 4-0. That is a foul ball by Tomas. You're just joining us. Reds got a run in the first inning on 3 base hits. Sac fly RBI by Bruce, knocking in Bourgeois. They had 3 runs on 5 hits. RBI single by Barnhart to score Schumacher, who doubled. Then with 2 outs, a run scoring triple by Bourgeois. RBI single by Suarez, and then Suarez thrown out at the plate on a double down the left field line off the bat of Joey Votto. That's the way the inning came to an end. But that would be it for Corbin here tonight. 2 innings. Swung on and missed. Wow. 6 strikeouts through the front 4 for John Lamb. Ford, go further. By Meyer, find more for a healthier you at Meyer. And by Cincinnati Children's, ranking 3rd in the country on the U.S. News and World Report's best children's hospitals in America. And as always, we send out a special hello to all of you watching tonight over at Cincinnati Children's. We hope you've had a good day and a better one tomorrow. What a beautiful shot that was. Along the Ohio River. Of course, Paul Brown Stadium there in the picture, and they'll be revving up here pretty soon. They being the Bengals. Pulled to the right side by Schumacher. One away. Wherever you are, you can follow the Reds with MLB.com at BAT, the #1 app for live baseball. Live look-ins, radio broadcast, statcast, so much more at BAT for your smartphone or tablet. You were talking about checking out a Bengals game early in the part of this season.
Yeah, well, it just so happens that the Reds will be in San Francisco the Monday after the Bengals are playing the Oakland Raiders.
It's a season opener.
And it looks like maybe there will be no Reds television that day, according to the schedule. If I can get out there a day early and watch the Bengals against the Raiders, that might be something worthwhile doing.
If I could offer just one piece of advice, however.
All right.
And I could not be more deadly serious when I say this. If you're going to the Oakland Coliseum.
You want me to get all painted up like a Bengal?
I would think that's not a good idea. There's a bouncing ball to Goldschmidt. 2 away in the inning.
No black and orange stripes all over?
I don't think that would be wise. In fact, I wouldn't put on something orange the day before or the day after.
You mean it's worse in Oakland than it would be, say, in the 500 level of the Philadelphia Eagles Stadium?
No, I'm not saying it would be worse. Neither one would be desirable. Or Pittsburgh, for that matter. Well, there's another one. No way.
I mean, I'm a Bengals fan. I've got the Bengals gear. I may have to reconsider the entire trip. You never know.
Broken bat, and Lamb is thrown out. Hopefully he didn't tweak anything there. Is he smiling down there? Yeah, he's all right.
Cincinnati Reds. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
That's a good-looking young family right there, having fun at the old ballpark tonight. You can do the same starting tomorrow night. Take on the Reds and Diamondbacks. And a special on-field ceremony will honor Reds Hall of Famer Tony Perez. That ceremony tomorrow night will be after the game. The one on Saturday before the game. More than a dozen Big Red Machine members will be there tomorrow night. Bench, Morgan, Rose. Have the big fireworks show presented by Cooper Tire after the ball game as well. So come on down. Top of the 5th inning. Reds in front of the Arizona Diamondbacks in the first of 4. 4-0. In the air, deep left field by Owings, and the Diamondbacks on the board. It's a 4-1 game.
He doesn't hit too many of those, only the 4th on the season for Owings. Oh boy, he turns on a high fastball right there, and shows you maybe a little bit of an insight why Tony La Russa insists on playing him full time to get him some experience at this level. Well, if John Lamb's going to be around a while, I would suggest he probably will. You're going to put that in the old memory bank right there. And they, well, note to self. Chris Owings likes the ball up, and he can turn on a fastball.
Number 8 hitter, the shortstop Ahmed, gets ahead in the count at 2 balls and no strikes, and immediately Tucker Barnhart taking charge and comes right out there to talk to his left-hander after giving up the home run. He still has a 3-run lead, but a long way to go. Ahmed struck out swinging his first time up. Two-one pitch, bunt and foul. You know, Chris, we never got back to a topic I asked you about before commercial break came, and we said we'd get back to your thoughts, and it involved Ahmed and how we talked about, you know, he's an outstanding defender. Hasn't proven yet, although he still has time to certainly change some of the numbers offensively in his career. But he's regarded as a really good defender and a less than average hitter. And I asked the question to you, what was scoring down in Major League Baseball? Do you think that we're going to see fewer and fewer of those kinds of players where teams can afford to keep a guy who's a really good defender but not much with the bat, as opposed to a guy who's a so-so defender but is a good offensive player?
Kind of interesting, because if scoring is down in baseball, you're going to see fewer and fewer offensive shortstops overall, number one. And I think that unless you have somebody to push it to the point where you're going to take the job away because he's such a good offensive player, you stick with the good D. Because if runs are down, you want to make sure you're not giving any up. And also, I think, matters what the composition of the rest of your roster is.
Broken bat pop-up, run down by Bourgeois.
They've got a lot of good-looking young hitters on this Arizona Diamondbacks team. So maybe you can take a slot in that lineup, and especially at shortstop, and put in a real good defender until somebody comes around that just pushes them out of the way.
Cole Mentor will bat here in the 5th. He's done an excellent job out of the bullpen. 2 perfect innings behind Corbin. Oh, and 2 on Cole Mentor. Arizona comes into this series 3 games under 500, but they were 7 games under 500 as their strike 3 to Coleman roughly a month ago. They're 15-11 since then. Well, right now we invite you to tweet your strongest fan photo. Use hashtag #OhioDataStrongFan. Maybe we'll put your picture up during a game. It's brought to you by T-Mobile. Seven strikeouts for Lamb.
That's as many as he had in his major league debut through 6 innings.
Inciarte fouls away the bunt attempt. The Arizona left fielder is grounded to short and singled to left field. There's that slow breaking ball you were talking about, Mr. Welsh. That's a good one.
I like that because it gives you a big difference in speed between your fastest and your slowest. I mean, if you're nothing but fastball slider.
That's a fair ball on an 0-2 pitch. Inciarte can fly. He's on his way to second. He'll stop right there.
Well, he runs hard too. Well, I don't necessarily mind seeing a guy give up a hit on an 0-2 count. And even this, I mean, he didn't want that pitch hanging up there. It just happened to be right down the line right there. I mean, that's just nothing but a ground ball that had eyes.
If Billy Hamilton somehow, some way can even just get to the on-base percentage of Inciarte, which isn't anything to write home about for a leadoff man. It's only in the 320s. But when you consider that Hamilton is in the 270s, my oh my, what a force he would be. And I think most feel that if you got Hamilton somewhere in that neighborhood, you'd be staring down the barrel at a potential 100 stolen base season for Billy Hamilton. It's a big batter in this game. 4-1. 0-1 to Pollock with a runner at second and 2 out. And now 0-2. Don't know if it's intentional or not, but when Lamb has gone up the ladder with his fastball, the velocity is about 4 or 5 miles per hour less than when he throws his best fastball.
Well, you know, on the old-fashioned radar guns, the low fastball is always registered faster. I don't know whether he's coming upstairs and that pitch that you're saying is a cutter or a slider. He sure pops the mitt, though. Maybe it's a glove that Barnhart uses, but it sounds good when it hits that level.
One ball, 2 strikes on A.J. Pollock. Runners takes off for third base, and it's fouled away.
And that's a changeup. I mean, he's used all 4 pitches, and he's really unabashed about using any of them in any situation.
Lamb waiting on Pollock to get back in the box. He does so. And now the 1-2 on A.J. Pollock. Fastball misses down and in. Well, the guy might be hurt. The guy might be ice cold right now, whatever the case may be. But you would certainly like to head on back to the dugout and leave Goldschmidt standing there and worry about him leading off the 6th. 2-2 on Pollock. Goldschmidt's going to bat. There's a base hit into center field. Throw comes to the plate. Not nearly in time, so the Diamondbacks twice on the board here in the 5th inning. And they have Goldschmidt representing the tying run coming to the plate.
Well, you're right about Pollock. I mean, he's having a tremendous year. A young man that is only 27 years old. He missed a lot of time last year after he was hit on the wrist by Johnny Cueto and broke his wrist. And he delivers for the second time tonight with a base hit. This is about the same time in his last game that John Lamb ran into trouble. Of course, the trouble back in that game against the Dodgers was that 3-run home run he gave up to Adrian Gonzalez. It was that game that really began the Reds on this current losing streak. And it has not been pitching that's a problem. During the streak, the Reds have scored an average of 2.2 runs a game, and they've batted 187 as a team. So you can talk all you want about rookie pitching. It ain't the rookies the problem right now. But right now he would like to get out of this inning, and he's got a tough hombre at the plate.
Goldschmidt is fouled out to Votto, and then John struck him out swinging, ending the third inning.
You know, even if he does have a sore wrist, I can tell you that I never once heard or ever heard of a scouting meeting where you go over the hitters where somebody says, don't worry about their all-star over there, he's got a sore wrist. Because you don't know from at bat to at bat that this might be the time it starts feeling good.
Well, we saw the first two games out in Arizona where the Reds completely handled Goldschmidt. And then all of a sudden Sunday came around. He pops out of bed his first time up, RBI double, next time double, next time single, a run scored. He also drew a walk in the Diamondbacks 4-3 10-inning victory. And that gave the Diamondbacks the series win over the Reds 2-1.
Well, you know that Brian Price would love to have Lamb get through this inning. I mean, 95 pitches, whatever he ends up with this inning, it may be the last time he goes out there. They've got activity in the bullpen. But he's pitched a whale of a game so far. You love to see him leave eligible for the win.
Now on Goldschmidt. Bruce digging hard. He'll get there. And Lamb makes a pitch when he has to get out of the inning. The Diamondbacks scored twice. The Reds lead is 4-2. Another doubleheader. The Giants taking on the Pirates, a very important series in the playoff race. That'll be followed by the Rangers, red hot, and Detroit. Coverage begins at 3:30 Eastern right here on Fox Sports 1, streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Top of the order for the Reds, last of the 5th inning against Josh Collmenter, who has 2 perfect innings in relief of Patrick Corbin. Reds had 4 runs and 8 hits in the first 2 innings. And it's a 4-2 Cincinnati lead. It's a strike. 0-2 on Bourgeois. Has been on twice, scored twice, knocked in a run.
Collmenter might be the most unusual right-handed pitcher you'll face all year long. Because according to the Pitch FX, and you can look it up on a number of different websites, which describes in detail what pitches he throws, what percentage of pitches he throws in different counts and so on, broken down just about every way you can. The velocity of them, the break and so on. According to that, he does not throw a fastball. I don't tell that to Jason Bourgeois, but his fastball is really a cutter, which is a ball that has evidently enough spin like a slider, similar to that of a spiral of a football, and moves enough to be not classified as a fastball but as a breaking pitch. His next favorite pitch is a changeup, and he throws that nearly 30% of the time. So it's 66% cutter, 30% changeup, and then whatever's left over is a curveball, and like that big one right there.
Let out by Bourgeois was the first time tonight either one of the top 2 hitters in the Reds lineup has been retired. Suarez 2 out of 2. He's knocked in a run. And something you rarely see, and almost will, I don't know if you'll see it again for however long it might be. Statistically, in the first 2 innings of this game, Suarez was thrown out at third and Suarez was thrown out at home. You could watch baseball for the next 10,000 days and may not see that one player do that in the first 2 innings of the game.
Would that be the base running equivalent of on your way to a cycle?
It might be. I hope for his sake he's not.
That's the cutter.
And by the way, neither time was he the batter in that situation.
Right.
Now, naturally not the one at home, trying for an inside the park home run. But he wasn't trying to turn a double into a triple when he was throwing out at third either. That was a cutoff play when he was trying to go second to third on a sac fly by Jay Bruce, which scored the first Reds run of the game. Collmenter, meanwhile, is dealing. 8 up, 8 down. Ball 1 to Joey Votto. Of the 8 batters he's faced and retired, Collmenter has struck out 3 of the 8. And Votto fouls it away. 3-1 pitch to Joey Votto, and it's pulled down to the first baseman Goldschmidt, and the Reds for the third straight inning retired in order by the reliever tonight, Cole Mencher. It's a 4-2 ball game with the Reds in front. Well, our IGS bringing the energy. Take a look at Lamb. We talked about his 7 strikeouts in his first big league game. He has 7 so far tonight. And you go back to 1914, and right now he falls behind only Gary Nolan, Johnny Cueto, and Rob Bell. And Lamb is going to get another inning. This will be his 98th pitch of the night. And he'll be facing Wellington Castillo, Aaron Hill, and then Yasmani Tomas. Castillo is 0 for 2. Really, it's been the top of the order outside of the one swing by Owings, a number 7 hitter, a solo home run. The top of the order is the only part of the order that's bothered Lamb at all. Inciarte has 2 hits. A number 2 hitter, Pollock, has 2 hits. Owings has the other 2 hits. Everybody else wearing the collar, including Wellington Castillo. That was a 100th pitch of the night for John Lamb. Now, unlike Finnegan, Lamb has been a starter his whole minor league career. So, he's been pitching as a starter this entire season. 100 pitches for him, I'm sure he would be the first to tell you, not a big deal. And by and large, it's been a stress-free night until the last Arizona at bat in the 5th when they scored their first 2 runs. It's not like he's pitching out of 2-on, 1-out jams all night. Gone swinging is Castillo. That's strikeout number 8.
Boy, I mean, we talked off the air, Tom, about how polished John Lamb looks, and I mean, that's a little breaking ball right there. That, I guess that's a changeup, the way he comes off his hand. But I mean, in any one at bat, he may throw you any one of 4 different pitches. You normally don't see that out of a young man just in his 2nd major league start. I mean, that's 66 miles an hour. You got to go back to the days of Bronson Arroyo to find a pitcher who has thrown a curveball that slow. In the minor leagues, Lamb has started 124 games, an even record of 39 wins and 39 losses, and a good earned run average.
1-2 to Aaron Hill. Into right center field. That'll fall in a base hit. So the Diamondbacks will once more bring the tying run to the plate. Trailing 4-2 here in the 6th. Well, tonight and after every Reds game here on Fox Sports Ohio, please stick around for Reds Live, brought to you by Performance Kings Honda. Jim Day from the Fox Sports Ohio condominium. And Jeff Pecoro inside the Reds clubhouse and on the field. Ryan Matthews will get up for a second time in the game tonight and begin to throw in the Reds bullpen. Here's Yasmani Tomas. A .295 battery, has 7 home runs.
Got to be a little careful with him, at least as far as the zone to stay out of. He's a very powerful young man. He sat out a number of games recently with a calf strain. On the season, close to a .300 hitter and a nice run producer. They expect big things down the road from Tomas. Ouch.
Look at that. Can you believe that? Inside out, and just drops it over the head of Votto for a base hit.
Decision time now for Brian Price. Do you go get John Lamb right here, even after this hit was really not authoritative at all? I mean, he just kind of tries to stay inside it. He does, and gets the benefit of blooping out over there.
Well, Jeff Pico is the one coming out. Now, remember, the batter who's coming up is Owings. And if you were just looking at a box score, you'd say, okay, Owings is 2 for 2 against Lamb tonight. And you'd be right. Now, the last base hit, he hammered it. A high fastball, he hit it off the second deck into left field. The first time up was a jam shot in on his hands that he fought off, and he hit it down the left field line. And it hit the stripe down there for a double. This is where we've seen Brian Price from time to time this year, especially guys that have been starters. We've seen it with Anthony DeSclafani, not necessarily with the guys who are, you know, becoming starters like a Michael Lorenzen, and after all the time off, Raisel Iglesias until of late. Brian has not been afraid to test the metal when guys get into trouble and they get around that 95-100 pitch mark to try and let them go get one more batter. And of course, it might be risky now, but Chris, you know, Greg Maddux used to say it, and he wasn't the first guy to say it, that you really don't learn to pitch until you get to 100 pitches in a game.
I like the fact that Brian's going to stick with him and let him work out of his own jam. Great first pitch, let him off with a changeup.
0-2 to Owings. Boy,
back-to-back changeup. I mean, this is a clinic. Young man has had some pretty good pitching coaching along the way. I can tell you that.
A fastball by him, and he dumps it into right field. You say a fastball, 88 miles an hour. I don't know, maybe it was something else. But it's a base hit to make it all of a sudden a 1-run lead, and that's all for Lamb. That looked like it had some spin to it. Well, he gave him a chance to get out of it. Got ahead 0-2. And then the base hit. So 5 1/3 innings tonight for Lamb. And a nice round of applause in this his Great American Ballpark debut. 3 in a row, or allows 3 consecutive hits, I beg your pardon, producing a run. You can clearly see he's disappointed. But he'll give way now to the veteran right-hander Ryan Matthews on to face the number 8 hitter, Nick Ahmed. And that's a 94-mile-per-hour fastball with excellent location. Strike 1. Oh, and 1 the count on Ahmed. In the air. Schumacher underneath it. 2 away in the inning. And the Diamondbacks are going to go to their bench, and boy, this is a lethal weapon off the bench. And David Peralta, he is a regular player for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Just a rare off day for him tonight. Peralta, an even 300 batter, 12 home runs, 64 runs batted in, has 42 extra base hits this year. And Peralta has been Mr. Clutch for the Arizona Diamondbacks so far this season. But not this time. Matthews going to take care of him on 1 pitch. Well done, Ryan Matthews. Ryan pumping that fist in the air. He's excited. And why not? And a slight smile from Lamb. He's still in line for his first big league win.
Marlon Byrd to the San Francisco Giants for right-hand pitcher Steve Johnson, who's pitching presently at Double-A, and he will join our Double-A club in Pensacola the next day or so. He's a right-handed pitcher, relief. We see him as a relief pitcher. He's got a big arm. But it was also, this is another case of an opportunity to get one of our veteran players an opportunity to go to a contending club and a chance to help a contending club get to the postseason, and it's a good opportunity for him.
If you're just joining us, that is the news of the day. Marlon Byrd, you see his numbers with Cincinnati, and now he will be in that Giants outfield. Right now, they can certainly use him because they are banged up in the outfield. And as well, Jockety said, a chance at the postseason to be on the defending world champs roster. And the corresponding roster move for Cincinnati, they have brought up Ryan Lamar If you remember a couple years ago, he was the defensive player in the minor leagues, the best defensive player in the Reds minor leagues. He was on the 40-man roster, then taken off. He's been fighting injuries, now healthy and coming back. He was trying to get a flight from Gwinnett County, where Louisville is. He has not arrived at the ballpark yet, so the Reds playing one man short. But Ryan Lamar, as good a guy as you will ever meet, and I tell you, anyone that's met him is very happy he's getting a shot at the big show.
Well, he won't have any problem finding a flight from Atlanta. You might have a hard time getting here from San Diego or Phoenix, but you will find a flight from Atlanta. As Andrew Chafin takes over on the mound, this guy's really done a good job for the Diamondbacks. 62 2/3 innings in his 49 games. An unbeaten record, a low ERA, opponents hitting .201 against him.
Throws it firm.
You'd be hard pressed to find better numbers from a left-hander who's thrown as many innings, and I'm not sure if there's any left-hander in this league that's thrown more innings than this guy. We'll have Joe Luck, of our statistician, take a look. That is a pile of innings in 40+ games. We talk all the time about a lot of times guy will have a left-hander, especially where he's coming in to face one left-handed batter. He'll have 50 appearances and pitch 27 innings. I.e. Randy choked.
Well, he's second in the league in innings pitched as a reliever. The only pitcher that has pitched more, we saw him when we were in Philadelphia, Justin DeFreitas, has 64 innings. Chapin has 62. Closest red on that list would be J.J. Hoover at 52.
Gone swinging is Jay Bruce. The Reds have not had a base runner since the double by Votto, and that was a play where Eugenio Suarez was thrown out at home plate, ending the second inning.
This is kind of like last night's game in a way, where it's a close game on the scoreboard, but it doesn't seem like it because the scoring happens so early in the game. Reds scored 1 in the first, 3 in the second, and have been quiet since.
Well, here's De Jesus, and he looks at a strike. Pulled into left field, a base hit on a 2-1 pitch by De Jesus. Well, the inning will continue for Skip Schumacher. That ends a string of 11 straight retired.
Pretty quick on that inside fastball.
Chaffin misses off the inside corner. Schumacher able to fight it off. Say this young man right here on the mound, you know, more than likely in his role, you're not going to garner a lot of attention to get enough votes, you know, for say a Rookie of the Year award. I tell you what, for what they've asked him to do, he's been as good as anybody around. Second lowest ERA among all rookies in the National League. He has the fourth most wins, and he's a reliever. Broken bat, fouled out of play. He has the lowest opponent's batting average against among all rookie pitchers in the National League.
Well, he doesn't exactly lull you to sleep with his delivery. I mean, he's got kind of a quick pace to it. Averages about 93, 94 on the fastball. His favorite off-speed pitch is a slider.
Caminero of the Pirates is the only rookie pitcher who's appeared in more games.
Here comes the slider.
Two and two. This will be the eighth pitch in this at bat as Schumacher is making a young rookie earn it. Reds in front 4-3. We're in the bottom of the sixth inning. And that'll do it in the Reds' sixth. A hit, one left. We're off to the seventh. Reds in front by a run.
At Great American Ballpark, thanks to Reach Savings Magazine, you can catch the action and save with a 4 for $48 ticket offer. For only $48, you get 4 view-level tickets plus 4 exclusive Reds hats. So for tickets, call 513-381-REDS or visit reds.com/4 for $48.
You know, you think about that deal, and especially what is going on tomorrow night and again on Saturday. With all the Tony Perez ceremony after the game tomorrow night, many members of the Big Red Machine, his teammates, are going to be here tomorrow night. And then before the game on Saturday, I mean, boy, if there's ever a time to utilize that 4 for 48 package, 4 hats, 4 view level tickets. If you're one of the first 30,000 through the gate, you get the Tony Perez replica on Saturday. So, food for thought. Ryan Matthews trying to protect a 1-run lead here in the 7th. He came on to get the final 2 outs in the 6th inning. Top of the order for Arizona. Enciarte's had a nice game. 2 out of 3, a single, a double, scored a run. We were wondering about that Cub game tonight. I think it's just so interesting. There are very few things that managers do in this day and age. Everybody is so worried, you know, whether it's the media, the fans, the coverage, to see a major league manager really step out of the box, and it's stepping out on a limb now. I mean, you may say it's not, but with those things in mind, a city like Chicago, a team that's not been to a World Series since 1945, they've not won a World Series since 1908. For your manager to decide before a series begins the 3rd week of August, where you're fighting for a playoff spot, for Joe Maddon to stand in front of the media where he got an American Legion flag and hoisted it up, the American Legion Chicago, Illinois chapter, and said, we're having American Legion weekend. Fly ball on the left. And for those of you that have no idea what I'm talking about, and I know I'm repeating myself for those of you that were, but Joe Maddon told his team it's an American Legion weekend, and everybody wondered, what is that? He said, when you played American Legion baseball, you got to the ballpark 1 hour before the game started. That's when you're getting to the ballpark for the next 4 days. Put on your uniform, put on your glove. If you got to get taped up, whatever it is you have to do, get it done, and we're going out and playing a game just like you did when you were a kid. And right now in the 4th inning, they're ahead 5-0. Because if you do that and your team gets humiliated for 4 days and you go from a 3-game lead in the wild card to 1 game back, and then for some reason you never recover, you will hear about that in Chicago for the rest of your career.
Now, if they go out the next series here against the Braves and they whitewash the Braves, do you see copycat managers around baseball?
That's an interesting question. And the other question I would have, though, before other guys, there's a liner into left field, and that will be, that'll fall in there. Looked like Schumacher had it. He may have overrun that ball, or maybe the ball tailed back in on him. And that'll be a double for A.J. Pollock. And again, here comes Goldschmidt representing the tying run. But Pollock's a good-looking player. But that's a catch, and Skip will no doubt tell you after the game, because he is a stand-up guy to the first degree. He'll tell you it's a ball he should have had. But just to finish the thought, the question I have is, if they sweep the Atlanta Braves in a 4-game series, their next 2 series are against the Giants and the Dodgers. Would you do the same thing again? Throw to third. And the runner is safe at third.
Had a huge jump, never even looked at him. That's the one part of Matthews' game that really could use some tightening up. His non-pitching stuff, which is holding runners and fielding his position. We've seen some weaknesses in both those areas, and the Diamondbacks capitalized immediately. I mean, did not wait at all. Ran on the first pitch.
And you know that's in a scouting report on Matthews.
Yeah, everything is now.
Infield in. Frazier gets it and throws out Goldschmidt. What a nice reaction play by Todd Frazier. 2 away in the inning.
Well, he did everything right on this play. With the first part of it, he's holding the runner on to make sure he doesn't get a big lead down there. He gets back to his position, makes a diving grab, and comes up and checks the runner. And checks him enough to make sure that he kind of looks him back. Better angle right here.
Boy, he cut that throw loose right there just in case Pollock thought about breaking for the plate. All right, one more out to go for Matthews, and it's ball 1 to Wellington Castillo.
I don't think that Joe Madden, to continue on that conversation, I don't think he continues this. I think it's a one weekend thing to kind of give his team a little bit of breather, and now back to the normal routine.
I bet you're right. And there's a strike.
I think Joe Madden is one of the first. I mean, everybody recognizes that it's a long season, and guys get tired now, maybe even more than before, because they're putting in more mental time, preparing, reading scouting reports, looking at video, and so on. But he's the first one to really do something about it.
2 balls and a strike.
And even if his team did get whitewashed the next 4 games, I doubt that any of his pitchers that may have given up big numbers would be able to come out and say, well, the reason I didn't pitch well is because I didn't get to the ballpark in June. The only thing you have to worry about really in Chicago, if he doesn't want him there until an hour before the game, they're still going to have to leave early.
Yes.
Because the traffic getting to Wrigley Field at that time of night, he doesn't want to have to field any phone calls saying, hey, Skip, you said get here an hour before, but I'm going to be a little late.
I'm on the Dan Ryan. 2-2 pitch. Dribbled foul again by Castillo. One more strike to go, one more out to go. Here in the 7th inning with a tying run at 3rd. Ryan Matthews, a big deep breath. And that is off the inside corner. It looked like Marty Foster was ready to ring him up. Didn't miss by much, but it was a ball. 3-2 to Wellington Castillo. And that's ball 4. The inning will continue for Aaron Hill. Well, this inning belongs to Ryan Matthews. The 7th inning is his. If they have a lead, the 8th, of course, belongs to Huber. If they have the lead, we know who the 9th belongs to. Aaron Hill singled and scored his last time up. Strike 1.
It's a good spot to keep it on Hill. He's very much like Owings up there, in as much as he is not a real tall guy, and the guys that seem to be shorter are better high ball hitters. Owings unjammed John Lamb for a home run way back on a high fastball. I think that Aaron Hill's a very good high fastball hitter as well.
Frazier will handle the ground ball. The force out takes care of Arizona in the 7th inning. Diamondbacks strand 2. Reds in front by a run. Holloway takes on dangerous double threat Charles Oliveira, plus a welterweight showdown between Neil Magny and Eric Silva. UFC Fight Night, Sunday 6:30. Only on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Diamondbacks have received outstanding starting pitching here tonight. Colementor gives them 3 perfect innings. Chafin allowed a hit, struck out 2 in a scoreless 6th. Reds lead by a run in the 7th. And now David Hernandez, a right-hander, takes over on the mound. Reds only 1 base runner since the Votto double in the 2nd inning. That was a 2-out single by De Jesus in the 6th. Barnhart is swinging a miss. Chris, you were talking a lot last night about Brennan Bosch. He is standing in the on-deck circle.
We're going to be seeing some faces that we haven't seen really much of all year long, especially with Bosch joining the big league club recently. Jason Bourgeois getting some playing time. Ryan Lamar coming up out of the minor leagues.
So it'd be nice to see that young man play well while he's up here, however long that is. I've been on the Reds caravan with him for 3 of the last 4 years. He is a really nice kid.
This is one of the areas where the game has changed really in the last couple of years, where every time there's a pinch hitter coming into a ball game, the pitching coach seems to be compelled to go out there and go over a detailed scouting report. If you want to speed up the game, you just limit the number of times the pitching coach can go to the mound. What do you really tell him? Except,
well, you tell me. You're the guy that's been out there on the mound.
This guy's got power. Likes to get his arms extended. Hard stuff in, soft stuff away. Hard stuff up, Soft stuff down. I mean, that's the way those kind of reports go. 99% of the time.
Well, Jason Bourgeois getting a chance to start each of the last 2 nights after Billy Hamilton was put on the disabled list. And he's been in the driver's seat as far as getting on base. Not only 3 for 6, he's also walked twice. So he's been on base 5 times the last 2 nights and scored 3 runs. Of course, he ran the Reds out of an inning on that funky play, but I mean, there's nothing you can do about that play now.
No, I don't think it was a case of him not knowing the infield fly rule. I think that he was probably so startled to see the ball land that he maybe thought he could score on it. Right. I get a chance to talk to him about it, and I'm sure he's embarrassed about it because it made all sorts of highlight reels everywhere, but it kind of is what it is. I bet if you quizzed both major league teams that are in this ballpark about the nuances of the infield fly rule, there'd be very few of them that knew all the different things that go on in an infield fly. Here it is now. It has to be a fair ball, which it is. Umpires call it usually when it reaches the top of its peak, the zenith of the fly. And you have to tag the runner because the force is removed. You can't just tag the plate as Bourgeois was coming in. Cannot be a bunt, cannot be a line drive. It can be caught by an outfielder, an infield fly, as long as in the umpire's judgment, and that's where the big underline is, in judgment call, that an infielder can, with reasonable effort, get to the ball and make the play.
Well, Bourgeois lifts a fly ball here, and Hernandez, like his mates out of the bullpen, picking him up and mowing him down. Arizona will bat in the 8th. We figure to see JJ. Reds lead by a run. Game summary. Well, the Reds jumped all over Patrick Corbin, who came into this game on a roll. Reds had 4 runs and 8 hits. In the first 2 innings, the only 2 innings, Corbin was on the mound. And I mean, ever since then, the Diamondbacks bullpen has just completely shut down the Reds. They have worked 5 innings of 1-hit shutout baseball. John Lamb right now making his first start here at Great American Ballpark. Strikes out 8 in 5 1/3 innings. He allowed a couple of runs in the 5th inning. Gave up a home run to Owings and a single on a 2-strike pitch to Pollock. Then he allowed a single to Owings in a 6th inning on a 2-strike pitch. Owings hurt him tonight. That last base hit by Owings came in the 6th inning to make it a 4-3 game. It's not J.J. Hoover tonight in the 8th inning. Instead, it is Burke Badenhop.
I wonder if there may be a changing of the guard here in the 8th inning, because it had been J.J. Hoover's job for such a long time. But Badenhop has been simply tremendous. Really has not given up a run until the very first week in the month of July. Little by little, that earned run average, which was skyrocketed up there, has come down now to a reasonable number at 3.5.
You know, you go back over this Reds bullpen. Now the starters, all rookies. We know that ever since they traded Cueto and then Mike Lee. But the bullpen, since both of those guys were traded, collectively, they have an earned run average of 1.45. To the count on Yasmani Tomas. And it swung on and fouled out of play. That was nearly a miracle catch by a fan in the stands. On a line drive, guy reached up above his head, knocked it down, popped it in the air, and almost came up with a grab-a-row in front of him. That may have been a play of the year. Just short. I mean, this is a rocket. Boom. Knocks it down. A tip. A tip. Ah! Frazier digging hard. And a throw by Suarez, not going to be in time. That's just bad luck for Badenhop and the Reds. Leadoff man aboard here in the Arizona 8th.
Frazier kind of cuts in front of Suarez right here, but I don't think it makes any difference. Yasmani Tomas is no burner down the line, but that ball took so long to develop. That play did.
Swung on and fouled off. Owing's a perfect night. A double, a solo home run, a run scoring single his last time up to make it a one-run game. And now a ball and 2 strikes. So activity in the Reds bullpen. We talked about Matthews and how the 7th inning belonged to him. The same old's true in this 8th inning, it appears, for Badenhop. Makes you wonder if as there's strike 3 to Owings for the first out of the inning. It does make you wonder if something's wrong with J.J. Hoover. He did not pitch in a game here last night. He pitched 1 inning on Tuesday night. The Reds, of course, were off on Monday. Or is there something bothering Aroldis Chapman?
And they're saving J.J. Hoover for the 9th. Well, we'll find out when we get to the 9th if Badenhop can hold the lead.
So certainly something doesn't add up because, you know, in a season where things have not gone the way the Reds had hoped they would, the one Rock of Gibraltar area outside of a pitch here and a pitch there for this team over really the last 2.5 months has been if they have a lead. Hoover coming in the 8th and Chapman in the 9th has been a very good combination. Jake Lamb, he's the regular third baseman. So against a left-hander tonight, Peralta and Lamb getting days off. Figuring to be maybe more of the same tomorrow. We'll see against another left-hander, David Holmberg. And the Reds have the right-handers DeSclafani and Iglesias on Saturday and Sunday.
They can really play the lefty-righty matchups. Chappelle using his really complete roster by having all right-handers except for the leadoff hitter Enciarte in the lineup tonight, not including the pitcher, of course. And tomorrow you're going to see all these lefties, I imagine. Saturday, that is. Well, Badenhop is just nipping the corners, isn't he? Right down there at the bottom of the zone, right on the outside corner for the strikeout to Owings.
Two and two on Lamb.
He's a little nervous Jervis, though, isn't he? He got a lot of different movements. Never can stand still on the mound. Badenhop.
Yeah, he makes you think about decaf. Popped up into the air, and Bourgeois here for the second out of the inning. But you know, one thing you learn about a guy, you always learn so much more about a person when things are not going well than when they're sitting on top of the highest wave.
Yeah.
And Badenhop never changed the way he went about his business, never hung his head, never said, you know, why are they not using me here? Why are they not using me there? I mean, he really fought through it in April and almost through the entire month of May.
Well, I think you get that more with a veteran pitcher. I mean, he's pitched in tonight. This is his 400th major league game. Now, if a rookie gets off to a bad start the way Badenhop did in the month of April, he's worried about being sent down to the minor leagues. And that's probably the thing that consumes him all day and night. Well, Badenhop knows he's going nowhere. And he just needs a little time to figure it out. I think that's one reason why you can right the ship a little easier when you've been around a little bit.
Oh, and one on Jared Saltalamacchia. Switch hitting, catching. Done a good job pinch hitting since being signed by Arizona. Nothing, and two on Saltalamacchia. Down the left field line towards the corner and up against the wall. Runner on his way to third. They're going to hold him there. An 0-2 pitch and an opposite field double by Saltalamacchia. So, you know, here's a situation where we talk about this a lot, Chris. There's no one getting loose in the Reds bullpen. And Brian Price made the comment before the season ever began that if the game situation called for it this year, where he could use Aroldis Chapman from time to time for more than a 3-out save, he would do it. Ender Inciarte is a batter. He is a left-handed hitter. The only batter left on their bench is Oscar Hernandez, a backup catcher. Would this not be perhaps one of those situations? Chapman did not pitch for 7 days before he blew a save on Tuesday night.
Oh, you're right.
They did not pitch last night.
Look at Manny Parra, who did not pitch last night. He would be more likely guy to be your situational left-hander. But I see what you're saying. You come in here, you bring Chapman in now, and it's not like he's pitching a full 2 innings. Just an inning and a third in order to grab the save.
But again,
there are things that we don't know.
That's right.
And it happens every night.
Every night with every manager of every team, where they'll find out. Could be early in the day, could be very late in the afternoon during batting practice. One of the relievers down there might come down and say, hey, Skip, I'm a little tight here today. If you can, maybe one more day off. And Brian Price and all the other managers may not share that information. They don't want it to get out and the other team to find out about it.
Well, you do have a base open. The problem is you have A.J. Pollock in the on-deck circle. He's been the best Diamondbacks hitter on the night. Looks like a good old-fashioned pitch around right here.
And look, this is not second guessing. This is first guessing, and it's using what the manager said himself before the year ever began. But we don't know if it's going to be Chapman to close this game out should we get to that point. There's ball 4 to Inciarte. Because no one's getting loose, although Jeff Pico will now come out for a visit after calling down to the bullpen. I don't know what you could be calling down to the bullpen for at this point. It's been a 24-pitch inning. You have nothing but right-handed batters coming up. You have Pollock, Goldschmidt, Castillo, Hill, Tomas, Owings, Ahmed,
J.J. Hoover. Well, that answers your question about whether it's Hoover that is unavailable or perhaps Chapman unavailable. Well, not Chapman. I mean, whether Hoover's available or not Chapman.
All right, well, Badenhop will be facing A.J. Pollock. He has been right in the middle of everything for the Diamondbacks, whether they're scoring or whether they're threatening. Pollock singled in the first inning, struck out looking in the third, knocked in a run with a single in the fifth. He doubled, stole third in the seventh, was stranded there as the tying run in the game. And they are loaded for Arizona. Remember, it was 2 years ago tonight when the man in the on-deck circle clubbed a grand slam in the 8th inning to bring the Diamondbacks from behind to win over the Reds.
Badenhop has enough movement on that fastball that he can start it off the plate, start it as a ball, and then have it end up as a strike like he did on the very first pitch of this at bat.
Bouncing ball up the middle, base hit. 2 runs are going to score, and the Diamondbacks have taken a 1-run lead.
just a ground ball that finds a hole. Unfortunately, bases are loaded, and with 2 outs, they are off and running. Yasmani Tomas, a runner at third base, he's saying, come on this way.
If there's one batter in this inning you look back on and you say, there's the batter that got this thing started, it would be Saltalamacchia. Diamondbacks had a runner at first base with 2 outs in the inning, and Badenhop was ahead of the pinch hitter, no balls and 2 strikes. And then Saltalamacchia hit one down the left field line off the wall on the 0-2 pitch, sending Tomas on to third. Walk, single to drive in 2 thereafter. And a 4-0 lead has vanished. Arizona with a 5-4 advantage. And that's knocked down by Badenhop. Suarez, a really nice play to throw out Goldschmidt. Diamondbacks score 2. They lead by a run after 7.5. Fox Sports Ohio. It's presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing. We'll do that tomorrow, starting at 6:30. Our game coverage starts at 7. Ruby De La Rosa. Boy, sometimes that guy is electric. 10-game winner. And other times you just don't know what you're going to get. Young pitcher. And the Reds are looking at lots of those guys, including tomorrow night starter David Holmberg. Holmberg had thrown the ball well until his last start, when he really got knocked around out west by the Dodgers. So now the game really changes as the Diamondbacks go to their setup man and hoping to get it to their closer. Their 8th inning belongs to Daniel Hudson. Now you look down in the Reds bullpen, and here they are batting in the bottom of the 8th inning, down a run. We saw Hoover get up when Badenhop was pitching himself into trouble in that 8th inning. And we brought up at the time something didn't add up. Normally, right now, you would see Aroldis Chapman throwing in the Reds bullpen in case the Reds came up with 2 runs to take the lead. He could come in the 9th and try and save the game. He is not throwing in the bullpen.
Well, obviously, we don't learn these things, Tom, because you never know where a leak is going to happen if you're a manager or a ball club. So if you're trying to hide the fact that one of your pitchers or players is injured and not available that night, you just don't say it. So we oftentimes go into a situation where we're just trying to throw out the speculation, having no idea of the health of one pitcher or a player.
A 3-hit game for Suarez after he was on base 3 times, 2 hits and an RBI last night. And here comes Votto with a tying run aboard and nobody out.
That's not a hanger either. That's a good pitch. He just goes right down to get. He stays back so well.
I'm not so sure we haven't seen some signs tonight from Suarez that make you think about raising the expectation level on this young man a little bit. He shot that ball into right field on an 0-2 pitch earlier in the game. He drilled one up the middle into center. And then that stroke right there, going down to get it.
Look at his forearms. I mean, this kid's a strong kid.
Votto tardy on the first pitch, 0-1. Hoover is the one who continues to throw. Leadoff man aboard here in the Reds' 8th inning. Strike 2. Hudson, of course, at one time a promising young starter for the Arizona Diamondbacks. I mean, they were so excited about his future. And then he basically missed 2 full years. Twice with Tommy John surgery. Came back the first time, had to have it again.
That's the first fastball he's thrown in this at bat. The first 2 were sliders, and he throws his slider very hard.
Hudson was a 16-game winner with an earned run average of under 3.5 and through 222 innings in 2011. But 9 games into 2012, injured. Had the Tommy John, came back the following year, pitched in 1 game in the minor leagues. Another Tommy John surgery. Came back last year to pitch a total of 9 games professionally. 3 with the Diamondbacks at the end of the year. And he's still just 28 years young. 3-2 on Joey Votto.
Well, one thing we've seen over the last couple of weeks is the hotter that Votto has gotten at the plate, the more the opposition tries to pitch him inside. I mean, you don't see anybody trying to pull him with off-speed stuff away anymore. Hudson's fastball is 96-97 range. Yeah, it looks like they want the slider.
Runner goes, and it's ball 4, and the Reds have the first 2 on in front of Todd Frazier here in the 8th inning after the Diamondbacks just took the lead in the top of the inning. Todd Frazier 1 for 3 in the game. Still the Reds team leader in home runs and runs batted in. Down a strike. He has 7 more home runs than Votto. And Bruce would be second most in RBIs. 9 fewer, make it 8 after Bruce's sac fly in the first inning tonight. Then Frazier's 73. Well, you see Goldschmidt second only to Matt Kemp of San Diego among all National Leaguers in go-ahead runs batted in. That was a statistic they used to keep as part of the everyday stat pack in Major League Baseball. It was game-winning RBIs back then. In this case, go-ahead RBIs. And Frazier ranks 3rd in the league. Fly ball center field. This will be the first out of the inning. Suarez bluffing as if to tag, but he will not try it. 1 out. Jay Bruce coming up. Boy, this second half swoon for Frazier just continues to roll on day after day.
Another guy that is due to break out of a slump is Jay Bruce.
Reds down a run, 2 on, 1 out. 1-0 to Jay Bruce. And he drops it off foul. Taylor Hudson's got to make a pitch. He's going to the slider despite throwing the gas at 97 miles per hour.
Well, with the swing like he just got from Jay Bruce, you'd think that he would stick with that slider.
came back with a 95-mile-per-hour fastball there, and Bruce chases it up in the strike zone to foul it away. And now Hudson in front of the Reds right fielder at a ball and 2 strikes. Inning began with a single by Suarez. He advanced to second on a walk to Votto. 1 out later, it's Bruce. With Arizona in front by a run, we're only in the bottom of the 8th inning. And I believe the Diamondbacks had their closer getting ready. That looked like Ziegler was throwing down there in the bullpen. Yeah, that's who it is.
No mistake in that delivery.
No. Two and 2 on Jay Bruce. Count remains right there. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Hudson against Bruce here in the 8th. Game on the line. Castillo hangs a sign. 2-2 to Bruce with 2 on and 1 out. Tried the fastball in the inside corner and missed. Suarez and Votto aboard. 1 out, payoff pitch coming to Jay Bruce, and here it is. Struck him out. 2 away in the inning. That time he had to go to the bread and butter. He came with a fastball at 96.
Not only at 96, but a perfect spot right under his hands, and that is just a tough spot for any hitter to get to. Boy, according to that Fox Tracks box, is there a way we could see that again? Not one pitch in the at-bat that Daniel Hudson faced Jay Bruce would have been a called strike.
Wow.
Look at that. All of those out of the strike zone. But close enough to get him to swing at.
All right, it's up to Ivan De Jesus. He struck out looking in the 2nd inning, did the same in the 3rd, and then had a single in the left field in the 6th. That single and Suarez single in this 8th inning are the only 2 hits the Reds have put on the board since the end of the 2nd inning. If you weren't with us in this game, I mean, the offense just seemingly hit every ball hard off Patrick Corbin. Reds had 4 runs and 8 hits in the first 2 innings. They have been shut out on 2 hits ever since. De Jesus tries to change that right here and right now. play made in the hole. What a play made, and safe as a call at first. Boy, Ahmed nearly made a spectacular play. I'm sure that'll be ruled an infield hit.
That ball looked like it was going into the outfield sure as anything, and Ahmed is right there, and he just comes up firing to first base. And the swipe tag right there. And did Chip Hale call for a review?
Yep.
He did. He may think that Goldschmidt had him on the swipe tag before DeJesus was able to touch the bag, and if he touched him, he's going to be out. Well, not looking good for the Reds there. The groan of the fans that are here at the ballpark just saw that shot we just showed you in slow motion, and they're seeing it again. And now the players are coming off the field, and even DeJesus going back to the dugout before the judgment is rendered by New York, just based on what they're seeing on the scoreboard. I've never seen this happen before.
No.
I mean, the Diamondbacks are so certain that everybody but 3 players are off the field.
And the call is indeed out. And it's quite a play by both Ahmed and by
Hall of Famer Tony Perez arrived early and witnessed the unveiling of the legendary first baseman's bronze statue. Special on-field ceremonies as well. First 30,000 fans in attendance will receive a replica Tony Perez statue. It's presented by La Rosa's. For tickets, call 513-381-REDS or visit reds.com/tickets. I'm Jim Day. It is indeed J.J. Hoover on the hill for Cincinnati. And guys upstairs, I can tell you that a couple days ago when Aroldis Chapman blew that save, his shoulder was barking a little bit. He was only throwing 95. I know that sounds weird to say only throwing 95, but for him, it was only 95. So I have no information on who's available or not today, but I've got to believe that Chapman's shoulder is still barking, and thus why you didn't see Hoover in the 8th, and you did not see Chapman warming up at all.
You know, it's part of, and for those of you at home, as Hoover does take over here in the top of the 9th, Reds are down 5-4. You know, there's always been, and it doesn't matter whether it's working in sports, whether it's working as news. You know, the people that are the closest to following a political campaign or following a baseball team or whatever it might be, you know, it's not that the managers won't tell certain guys certain things. You know, my dad goes down there, for example, and talks to Brian Price every day when he does a radio show.
Right.
And
with the door closed and nobody else in
door closed, nobody else in there. And there will be things where Brian Price will share with my dad. He's done the same thing with you. He's done the same thing with me. But, you know, when you're sitting up here sometimes in our job, you can understand why sometimes you're just better off not knowing anything. And what I mean by that is that, you know, Brian Price doesn't want us sitting up here in the broadcast booth saying that something is wrong with Aroldis Chapman, if indeed there's anything wrong with Aroldis Chapman. And again, we don't know. I don't know. Jim just said he doesn't know. We know what happened a couple of days ago. But, you know, even sharing that with a close member of the media or somebody like that would be in a position where you can't use it anyway.
And what if he shares it with two people and it gets out? And he's not sure where it comes from, and you know you didn't say anything.
That's right.
Now you have a hard time proving that you didn't say anything.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And it's not just Brian Price. It's every manager we've had ever.
And everyone that comes in to play the Reds. Every single one of them. Because all these managers go through so many things where they bite a bullet. Mm-hmm. And it's either biting a bullet for a player or it's biting the bullet on just information. And they know at the end of the day there's a chance they're going to be first guest. The manager, is going to be second guest when he can't even tell the press after the game the reason he did what he did.
Right.
And that's part of the job description of a major league manager. I tell you, I really feel for those guys. I tell the story frequently about the guy sitting in the booth next door, who I was very close friends with, Bob Brenly. We were broadcast partners for many, many years, both with the Cubs and the Arizona Diamondbacks and with Fox. And his first year as a major league manager with these Diamondbacks, he won the World Series. But guys like Curt Schilling and Randy Johnson were not always the easiest guys in the world to manage. You know, it's funny, the first thing most people will say, well, heck, I could have won a World Series with Schilling and Johnson. You also might have choked yourself managing Schilling and Johnson at times, because these were guys that were the very top of their game, and any little thing that just wasn't right is something that they demanded the manager make it right. And you know, there was a long time Johnson had a catcher he was working with every 5 days. Randy was on a run that no other pitcher had ever been on, like in the history of baseball, over a 2.5-month time frame. ERA was like 1.2. Johnson got beaten a game 2-1 and told Bob Brenly, I want to go with a different catcher the next time. Randy Johnson didn't tell the catcher that, who was only playing once every 5 days. The manager had to go tell that catcher that. And not that it came from Randy Johnson.
Right. Did he name the catcher he wanted to go with?
All of the names are to protect the innocent. They have been changed. Reds with a chance in the bottom of the ninth. Has been brought to you by Menards. Save big money at Menards on all your home improvement needs. And by your local Toyota dealers, proud sponsor of the Cincinnati Reds. As promised earlier in the game, we selected our Data Strong fan photo. And you can still tweet yours to hashtag Ohio Data Strong Fan. Maybe we'll show your pictures. Brought to you by T-Mobile. Pamela, thank you.
Brad Ziegler's a closer, 21 for 23 save opportunities, 52 games on the year. Sidewinding right-hander, much more difficult to hit as a right-handed pitcher, as a right-handed hitter than as a lefty. And he will face a couple of guys hitting left-handed the first two in this inning as Schumacher and Barnhart are due up.
All right. Well, let's see how it goes here for the Reds in the bottom of the ninth. They're trying to end this 5-game losing streak. Diamondbacks are trying to win their 16th game in their last 27 played. And there's a tapper, but cut off by the third baseman Lamb, and he throws out Schumacher. Now, the Reds in Fox Sports Ohio would love to wish a very, very, very happy 90th birthday today to Charles Bell of Marysville, Ohio. Charles Bell, a Navy veteran from World War II. The greatest generation. Charles Bell, happy 90th birthday. God bless you. I hope you've had a great day, and we cannot thank you enough for your service. We'll be wishing him a happy 91st this time next year. There's another tapper down to third. Bobbled. Lamb still enough arm, and the Reds are down to their final out. And Brian Pena is the batter. So on a night where the Reds had a 4-0 lead through 4 innings, Arizona scores 2 off John Lamb in the 5th, 1 off Lamb in the 6th. The Reds offense has just completely been null and void. After getting 4 runs and 8 hits in the first 2 innings, they have been shut out with only 3 base runners since the 3rd inning. Baden-Hop touched up for a pair of runs in the 8th on a night where clearly Aroldis Chapman was unavailable. Baden-Hop pitched the 8th, saving Hoover for a save chance if they have that chance in the 9th. But the Diamondbacks are an out away from winning the opener of this series. Pena fouls it back out of play. It's 1 ball, 2 strikes. Three straight ground balls to third, 3 straight outs, and the Diamondbacks scored 2 in the 8th inning and rally to win by a final count of 5-4. Let's take a look at our Miller Time moment of the game. Pollock, a 4-hit night, drove in 3, including the 2-run single to give the Diamondbacks a lead in the 8th inning. Final count 5-4 Diamondbacks. Reds Live starts right now.